Hi, this is Michelle from Saw Barteristas, and today I wanted to talk to you about choosing different recipes for your family to eat dinner. So whenever I'm looking for a recipe, whether it's in a cookbook or a cooking magazine, I usually try to look for obviously things that my family would like, not just based on my preferences, but on theirs. So that's one big thing. Second big thing is time. Obviously, don't have a ton of time, but I do like eating good things, and so it's just finding that balance between taking forever and something that's just quick but not very tasty. And then the third thing is obviously ingredients. So sometimes the ingredients can be just weird, so it's not really necessarily worth it, or maybe difficult to find, or also processed. Like I had spoken before about using processed foods, which I think are just not generally very good. So I try to avoid, if there's, it's really convenient to use puff pastry dough, or it's really convenient to use pizza dough, and just for examples, but they're not really very good for us, and they're also not as good as if you can make it from scratch. And so I generally try to make as much as I can from scratch. I've had a lot of experience doing this. We actually lived in Korea for 9 years, and I had to learn to make a lot of things from scratch because although Korea is wonderful, we love the country, there's just a lot of American products that you couldn't necessarily find there easily or inexpensively. So we learned to make do with what we had. And so one of those things that we made a lot was pizza. And it's very easy to make. It's relatively quick, which some people may be surprised. It's actually not that much more time really than ordering it and waiting the 45 minutes on a Friday night and then picking it up. So that's the first thing that I wanted to, first dinner recipe that I wanted to share with you guys. Okay, so the first thing you obviously start with is flour. So I use this handy dandy KitchenAid. It's like my best friend. You can obviously do this by hand. I did it for years by hand, but it's a lot easier to knead your dough with a KitchenAid. So obviously use a dough hook. You put in about 4 cups of flour if you want to make 2 large pizzas. So I've like 1.5 this to make 3. You can easily do that. It's very simple. You just, do the math and figure it out. So then it's about 1.5 teaspoons of salt. And then I always use this type of yeast. 2.25 teaspoons of yeast. Then you add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And here's your 1.5 cups of water, and make sure it's just warm to the touch, not crazy hot, because then you'll kill your yeast. So this is the bread dough. Make sure that there's enough flour in there. Let it go for a minute though before you add any extra flour, and as long as it clears the side, you're good to go. So as you can see, the dough is definitely sticking to the hook, and if you're doing this by hand, it may stick a little bit to your hands. I just put a little bit of flour in my hands to take it off of the hook, but you want it to not be so sticky. Like when you're kneading it in here, let me get it out of here. When you're kneading this, then it should not stick to your hands. Like my hands are still, they don't have any dough on them, but you want it to be soft, because if it's too dry, then it's not going to taste very good. And when you're done, which, you just do like 5 or 10 kneads or something, and then I always add a little bit of, that was just like canola oil. You can add olive oil, whatever, to the outside of the dough so that, it's just so that it doesn't stick to the bowl as it rises. So now all you do is cover your bread dough or your pizza dough with a cloth, or you do plastic wrap. I usually just do a kitchen towel, and you let it sit on your counter, sit anywhere where it's warm, and let it rise. Honestly, about not even an hour does it need to rise, and that's about all you need to do. So once you're ready to start baking, you need to know what to actually put it on. These are really great for making pizzas. They're just because it lets the circulation go through, and so you don't get like a soggy crust or one that sticks to too much to whatever you're baking it on. So one thing we've learned the hard way is that don't put these on top of a stone, because it will definitely stick and you have to peel it off of this thing. But if you just put this thing into the oven and bake it, it comes right off usually. So very easy. So as for the sauce that you put on pizza, you can buy that, but you can also make it very, very easily. It's just a few ingredients. I usually just put a little bit of olive oil into a pan, 1 to 2 tablespoons, around 1 to 2 cloves of garlic smashed up, or you can dice it and let that fry for a minute, and then I add some chili powder. We're sort of part Korean now that we live there for so long, so I use this. It's just red pepper powder, but you could just use anything to make it a little spicy. If you don't want it, just don't add it. And then I add a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. I let that simmer for just maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and that's about it. You add a little bit of salt and pepper to taste, and you have your sauce. So usually it's way too much for 2 pizzas, so I freeze it and I have it for later, so I don't have to keep making it every single time I'm making pizza. And usually that lasts at least 2 or 3 times of me making pizza, so it's really convenient, very easy. And you can also use this for dips like calzones or any like garlic knots, anything like that. So it's really tasty. Again, very, very easy and quick. And of course, you need to know what cheese to add. I always add mozzarella cheese. The type that I use is just the BJ's shredded, because it's a lot easier to buy this than to shred it yourself, because the mozzarella cheese is so soft. So it's just difficult to shred. And I also use pepperoni that I buy from the deli. You can buy it in the little bags, but I've found this to be much cheaper, and it's really good. And I know it's processed, but that's one of those things that you just pick your battles. And here's a very quick demonstration of how to make a pizza. Put sauce. I don't like a lot of sauce, so put a little bit of sauce, put some cheese down, and the pepperoni. So after baking in the oven at 500 degrees for 8 to 10 minutes, this is your final product. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any other suggestions for quick, easy dinners, please comment on the video and get on sourbarteristas.com and start bartering. Thanks so much.